I'm Simone Robinson. I'm about to be on the Online Prosperity Show. I'm a copywriter, marketer, and storyteller. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the copywriting experience, how to tell fantastic stories, and how to make sure you are converting more of those leads into customers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, where we dive deep into the stories of people who are not just thriving in their industries, but are actually making a real impact. Now, Simone, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I'm really excited for this call today. I mean, first of all, you're somehow my home girl, and second, we are also in somewhat the same industry. So it's always nice to come across a topic that I'm well versed in. You know, sometimes I talk to people that are experts in their own realm, and I'm just sitting here thinking, I don't know if I'm qualified enough to be having this conversation. So thank you so much for agreeing to play with me. Now, for those that are wondering what I'm talking about today, we have a guest who's as sharp with her words as a chef is with their knives, and she cuts through the noise of all those competitive markets, and she is serving up a dish of copy that actually converts. Now, Simone Robinson is a seasoned copywriter and marketing strategist with a track record that includes crafting winning strategies for some of the biggest names in the industry, and also creating a business for herself that is now profitable and enjoyable. But what really sets her apart, anyone can put words and pen to paper, but that's not what she exactly does. She helps you attract high quality, ready to buy leads in your business consistently. And that's not just about making businesses sound good on the internet. She's also about making them unforgettable. Now, wouldn't that be nice? So get ready to learn the secrets behind her success, and I think you're in for a treat because she's packing a lot of heat. Now, Simone, like I said, this is a very interesting subject for me to jump into, considering people come to the internet to get information, and what we write on there is what then makes them determine whether they want to purchase from us or not. Tell us, how did you even end up in this side of the internet?
Right. Yes. So a little bit of an interesting story how I originally got started. So I came to Australia a little bit over 10 years ago, and I came to do my psychology degree. And psychology, I will say, all of the best marketers I've ever had the pleasure of working with have been really interested in the field of psychology. At the time, wasn't necessarily the plan. But university, right, especially in Australia, is not necessarily that cheap. And so what I did is I kind of jumped into it feet first, and started in the content writing world. I started with the ghostwriting, blog posts, that side of things, right? And one thing kind of leads to another in this industry. And it wasn't very long before I found myself very firmly in copywriting and direct response copy. And so by the time I did graduate with my psychology degree, I had a well and truly established career in copywriting, which I found was more aligned with what I was looking to do. And while psychology is a really valuable field and people make such huge impacts, I realized that I could make a very different type of impact being in the marketing industry, helping businesses who have valuable ideas and valuable products really put themselves out there in a way that was authentic to their brand and really help them reach the right people and help the right people. So it ended up being quite similar in terms of wanting to help people using psychology. It just was in a completely different industry and field than I originally planned. So bit of an interesting story, but I find most people in copy ended up here in an interesting way. So
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for obviously going through that with us, because it really then opens up Pandora's box as to how you actually make it easy for people to generate business on their own, because it is psychology that's involved in actually making people do certain things, especially on the internet. Now, you came by way of you said you came into Australia 10 years ago. Where were you coming from?
I was coming from South Africa, so originally South African.
Fantastic. What was it like for you being there? And obviously there would have been a culture shock, coming into Australia. They're like, there's kangaroos and drop bears.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit different, right? I also ended up going all the way to Tasmania initially, and so it was a quite big shock in terms of climate. Because if anyone's ever been to Tasmania, it is cold, and so you're kind of coming from a much warmer climate. Even where I was from, Cape Town, being a little bit more mild, you still have scorching hot summers, and so that was a big shock getting used to the cold. Which funny when I tell people that came to Australia and it was colder, but it was, and so. That was a bit of a shock. And then, of course, cultures are different. You learn all the lingo, all the slang, which actually is a huge part of copywriting as well, right? Like the differences in the way people communicate. You think it's as simple as changing your grammar over from, say the US grammar structure and spelling structure to UK, Australia. But it's actually so funny how many little words and nuanced words there are across cultures who all speak English and approach it in a totally different way, and how easy it is to kind of miscommunicate and or come across completely differently. So that was probably a big thing, and I find that is a very global experience for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna warn everyone in South Africa, never call them thongs around here, or
Oh yeah, oh God, yes.
it's things like that, you know what I mean? Where you are thinking, wait a minute, are they thongs, are they slippers? What are they actually? So it's different
Yeah.
things in different locations. And speaking of that, did that sort of create disadvantages, or it actually gave you advantages, the fact that you actually have experience in a different market where you're coming from maybe a different country, and you're experiencing life in a whole different place? Would that have given you a bit of more hunger than anybody else who would have been around here in order to create this business?
I would say it did, purely because like I said, I came to study, and you don't have any sort of support in terms of the HEX programs and other fundings that they have for university here, which are great, by the way. I think they're a really fantastic initiative. But, you know, coming at 18 to, you know, do my degree and try and figure out, how to pay for it. You've got to make sure your business becomes profitable quickly, and you get very good at what you're doing. And so I joke that I couldn't get a job at McDonald's, so I had to make the writing thing work. And the reason I say that is it's a paperwork thing when you're on a visa. So no hate to any of the businesses. They're all great, but it's just a case of you kind of have to make it, right? If you have these bills breathing down your back, it does kind of push you. And especially when it's something that you are interested in, you are passionate about, which I've always been a huge fan of writing and the written word. It's always been a big interest of mine. Then that kind of pushes you then a little bit further into, well, you got to make it work, and you might as well make it work in the field that you enjoy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I kind of figured that, because obviously if you've got your back against the wall, you literally go all the way to make sure that it's going to work. And that's the reason why, you've become this successful in a short amount of time. Now, obviously, the people that would have sent you off at the airport would have expected to welcome back a psychologist on the way back. Did anyone voice any concern, with your shift in career, or were you disowned, or did people actually threaten?
That's great. Yeah, my mother has always been very, very supportive of me. And she was always supportive of my writing career. But, and here was the but, right? It was, I'm sure you can be a writer, but you should have the degree in psychology because that's a safe career. And so that's just coming from that place of love and wanting to sort of protect your children and make sure that they have the setup for success, right? And so I think there was a little bit of hesitance there once I had graduated and I was continuing along this path, and there was a bit of concern that having your own business, or being a freelancer, that doesn't necessarily come with the same stability we equate to like a career where you are employed 9 to 5. Um, and in my experience, though, realistically, you're not that much more secure in your 9 to 5 than you are in your business. And it took a bit of convincing, but we're in a good place now, and I phone regularly to give business updates, and have my mom now tell me, "Hey, maybe you should slow down. Maybe you're working too hard." So parents are always going to worry, I think,
Um,
but it's always been well received. Yeah, luckily.
absolutely, absolutely. So, did you end up finishing the degree, or that actually just didn't? Um,
I have my degree in psychology. The only thing I haven't done is I haven't done my residency. Well, I say residency for ease of explanation, but effectively there's a period of 1 to 2 years where you work underneath another psychologist. So I haven't done that. But I do have my full bachelor's in psychology.
Absolutely. I think that's all you really need, especially in the realm of what you are now
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
You really need to understand the human psyche, human behavior, and literally response based on certain stimuli. Now, speaking of response, you mentioned that some of the things that you deal with is called direct response. First of all, what is that, and what does it entail?
Great. Yes. So direct response copy or direct response marketing. As the name implies, you are trying to get a direct response from your customers. So instead of marketing where you might have that longer omnipresent focus where you're posting on socials, you're getting on podcasts, you're doing all these really powerful things that build your credibility and brand, direct response is really aimed at getting somebody to take action now. So that is often in the form of things like ads, funnel builds, landing pages, individual offers, um, webinars, even emails that have a really specific purpose of converting somebody. So it's very much focused on that conversion. It can be a little bit more aggressive than, a website copy, right? Where you're just educating about the product versus encouraging people to take action and very specific action. So you'll find a lot of those stronger call to actions in this type of copy. If you look at any of like the funnel hacker kind of world, you're going to see a lot of that direct response there. So effectively, it is copy that gets that response immediately versus longer term copy or even back end stuff like, grant writing or, things that are more corporate and back end.
Absolutely. It's just not the stuff that's just needed by bigger businesses. I just need to tell people what I do, and I think that will be enough on my website, isn't it?
Mm. Yes, unfortunately, sometimes you find people will say drive their ad traffic to a contact form on a website. And so that unless that's warm traffic and they have a really great kind of rapport with you, or they are actively in like a rush to get what you're selling, like if they need a lawyer and they need it now, they might contact you. But outside of that, you really need these kind of direct response copy pages, funnels, options within your marketing structure to encourage that response, especially when you're working with things like cold traffic and people who don't know you, and it can get them into your ecosystem to nurture long term. Even if it's a low ticket, right? Even if it's a free offer, even if it's a webinar or something like that, you want to get them into that, ecosystem of yours that they see you more, they interact with you, they get your emails, and you'll be more likely then to have an actual converted customer at the end of it.
Absolutely. And obviously, just listening to you, it does seem and sound like, you're good at telling stories. Is that also something that is required in order for us to be able to connect with the audience that we're speaking to through our websites?
Yeah, so humans really love stories. So whether you are writing a sales page or giving a speech, stories are what is going to capture people's attention. And this comes down to the fact that historically, in an evolutionary standpoint, we are designed to listen to stories. It's the way we used to pass our warnings, our traditions, our, information about how to do things. A lot of that was told and communicated through stories. And so because this is a medium that's so hardwired into our brains, we want stories. We want to listen to it. We want to watch the movie, read the book. We want something that is engaging and entertaining and tells a narrative. And so I recently gave a talk and I said people don't care about facts, tell stories. And it kind of leans into that sort of method, right? Where, yes, facts do play a role. Of course they do. But the thing that's going to make people stay, especially to cold traffic, is telling a compelling story, having a good narrative, having a particularly powerful video in your ad that makes people want to keep watching, having an email that's fun to open. A lot of people talk about emails dying, and I mean, they won't die if people want to open your email for a good purpose. It's something fun, it's something interesting, it's something they want to engage with. And so stories, starting with your good hook, your compelling middle, overcoming a problem, having a good ending that's satisfying, ties into what you're selling or ties into your brand, that's huge. And so even going back to like your brand story, making sure you're communicating why you do what you do, how you do it, what's different, and telling it in a form that is interesting. Realistically, that's what it boils down to. Keep your stuff interesting so people want to keep reading or
Absolutely.
listening.
That's quite interesting. I mean, some people would, scratch their eyes just watching a 3 second video, or, while some people can sit around and eat as much popcorn as possible watching a 3 hour movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean, as long as people are engaged and they're actually with the story, it actually helps. And I quite like how you put that across. But doesn't that make us want then to be perfect? Because I want to make sure the website is perfect, the story is perfect, everything is just singing in and of itself. And I don't know what you think about that, because if that's the case, then what good would I have in the marketplace there?
Right. Um, so a mentor of mine, or a person I wants to work with, he said that perfectionists were usually broke. And that was his with a bold statement. It ruffled some feathers. And I know a lot of us, especially in business, do tend to be perfectionists, because if you are self-driven and you're disciplined enough to be in business for yourself, often you do have this perfectionist tendency. And so it's a lovely balance of launch before you're ready and to put it out there and tweak it, and being willing to optimize and being willing to look back and think and refine and work on it, because you do need your story. But if the first story you put out there isn't as articulate as it could be, and you notice where you're losing people, that's good. You can fix it. You can go back. You can adjust. And so you do want to spend time crafting this copy. You want to write 10 times and use one. Another great piece of advice I got for headlines. But it's coming back to, you know, you're willing to launch, you're willing to put something out there that is authentic and feels right to you, and then you're willing to go back and be able to refine and continue to adjust. And know that your first copy probably won't be perfect. And that is the nature of any good copywriting. It's probably been rewritten and rewritten multiple times.
Absolutely. Some of the things that you help people do is you help people create high quality copy that sets them apart as the go-to expert within their industry. What sort of process do you then follow to develop this copy that actually stands out and also converts for these your clients?
Absolutely. So I will ask more questions than you want me to. I will probably ask questions you hadn't considered, things that are probably going to annoy you a little bit, to have me have me badger you about. And that's a big part of it. Really diving deep into and understanding what your brand is, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, all of these different elements. So it's a conversation, and it's a lot of questions, and it's getting really into the nitty-gritty, and it is finding your blind spots. It is getting clear on what you might be missing, because it's so easy as a business owner to not know what makes you special, to think, to not notice it, to not see it, to not be able to articulate it. I get a lot of clients tell me that the difference for them is they really care about their customers. Well, I should hope so. So, going in and thinking a little bit further about how we can articulate these really powerful points. And it's a lot of back and forth, and it's a lot of extraction of these really key points. And then I take it, I go away and I distill it into a really clear couple of sentences that we can then use and translate across everything that we do for you. Whether it is a conversation you're having with a potential client on a sales call, whether it is an ad we're running, whether it is a sales page, we can always go back to these couple of lines of really strong, well-articulated copy and use that to then filter down and talk about it. So between that and making sure we've got a really well-written story, which is one of my favorite things to write that you can use on your LinkedIn, you can use on your website, about page, or, part of the sales page, always come back to. Those are kind of the two things that I would focus on the most.
Absolutely. And that's quite interesting. I mean, so many people, like you say, I mean, obviously, fish don't see the water that they swim in, and neither can people see the air that they breathe. But it's when we have done working with our clients that they're like, oh my word, you've actually made a huge difference to the work that I'm doing. So obviously, you've also had so many of these moments with your clients when you've achieved results for them. Can you maybe share maybe a recent success story? Obviously, you don't necessarily need to mention names that you are particularly proud of, that you had that sort of transformation happening for your client.
So I do have a story that I really enjoy telling, because it was a client who they were doing drop shipping. And so drop shipping can be a little bit generic. You are sourcing products, you aren't necessarily manufacturing them. There can be a little bit of a lack of uniqueness sometimes to some drop shipping stores. It's a great model, right? But sometimes if people aren't branding it correctly, you can kind of come up against these issues. And so I had a client, she'd gone through a couple of coaches. I was copy coaching her at the time. And she just came to me and went, look, there's nothing unique about my business. I sell fitness gear and I source it from a dropshipping website, and there is very little about my brand that is unique. And, we got to talking and I went, well, why are you in why fitness? Just talk me through it, right? Tell me why this is the niche you chose, because you're choosing it for some reason. It's not necessarily the most profitable. So what is it? And she goes, oh, well, so I used to play for the Matildas. And I go, are you really? The
Even,
Matildas?
even I lit up with that one.
Exactly. And I go, oh, okay. And she goes, and yeah, and I had an accident when I was playing New Zealand. And then I used some of these kind of products for recovery. And I'm like, well, I don't even have to be part of this conversation. This writes itself. I don't have to think about it. And she just couldn't see it, right? She just couldn't see the link herself. And so I love that story. It was great. Obviously, we rebranded and changed our approach entirely, with the marketing with that one. And then she got more success because people were interested again in the story. They wanted to click an ad of an elite athlete, and what product she used. So, her recovery, her journey, it was all so compelling. And so, sometimes it really is as simple as talking to somebody and working with somebody who has that lens of how do we market this to bring it out of you. You might have it, you might know it, but you might just not be able to properly articulate it in your marketing. So that's one of my favorite stories. I tell it every opportunity because it's such a great illustration.
It has already become one of my favorite stories because so many people don't quite see the diamonds that are lying beneath them. They're just looking at how can I sell this particular product and everything else. And I usually just boil it down to say, first of all, just look at the future that the customer wants, not the features of what you're selling. And if you can
Good point.
really look at that and exemplify how airplanes don't sell the crappy seats, the small, tiny peanuts, and the bumps in on the way. They sell the destination, and then pretty much after
Yeah.
that, you obviously,
Mm.
can get the customer the picture that they want. And obviously, if somebody's been hurt, recovery is the next best thing. And an elite athlete to boot. Wow, she was just really sitting on some. So
Oh,
if
absolutely.
if there are other Matildas out there or some Reagans that have just maybe been on the big stage or things of that nature, and they would like to maybe start working with you, what would be the first things that they need to do in order for you to uncover their greatness, like you just did for this Matilda?
Yeah, sure. So typically when people work with me, we start with just a one-on-one consultation call, and we'll just sort of chat a little bit about what you're looking to achieve with your brand and your marketing, and how far you're looking to get support on. So it can be anything from, let's just have a couple of sessions where we chat and I pull out some of these really good, hooks and suggestions out for you, all the way through to, well, if you'd like me to write, some of the marketing materials for you that you can then utilize, that's another thing that I support people on. So first and foremost, again, talking, there's a lot of this talking, a lot of the back and forth, a lot of, maybe asking the same question three different ways until it clicks in your head. And it's almost kind of likened a little bit to a psychology session, right? Where I'm just asking a lot of questions and having this communication and bringing it out that we can then turn into this really compelling copy. And if it's compelling and people want to read it, and then we tie that into, as you said, these really strong results, right? Selling the destination. It's very hard then to ever have your content completely bomb. So you might have different things or different strategies that work better, but you're always going to be operating then from a place of strength and a place of, you've got a strong foundation, you've got a great compelling, line through everything that you do that keeps you on track. So that's the
Mm.
that's the current process.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure all those links are in the show notes and people can actually get started working with you, because I think so many people, like you say, are just sitting on so much value, and it just takes, well, like you appropriately saying, a psychologist to sit down with you and so discuss, tell me your feelings, and
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that. It is a lot of tell me a little bit more about why you did this, why you think that, why. It's funny, I didn't realize sometimes how similar it is until you say it out loud, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you've come a long way, and obviously there's more where that came from. What can people expect, from Simone Robinson now that we've just been introduced to you?
Oh, what can they expect from
Yeah,
me?
what's next? What are you working on? What can we get excited about?
Yeah, sure. What am I working on? So at the moment, I am looking at potentially launching a few things. We're looking at a lot of what I do right now is a lot of done for you, a lot of support, a lot of one-on-one. And not everyone really wants that, has the time, maybe has the resources. So I am looking potentially at ways that we can make that a bit more accessible. One way is a book. I am speaking it into existence. It's well on the way, but it's not done yet. So I guess now I've said it and I've got to commit to getting it launched. Probably a bit of accountability, all of you listening. So that's one thing specifically, where it's going to be a little bit easier to have a look and how to break down this really powerful story that you're telling. That's probably the thing taking up most of my time outside of my clients. So
Absolutely. Now, Simone, you've just committed the ultimate sin,
no.
right?
Yes.
All right. Because you can't mention that you're going to be doing or you're producing a book and not promise to come back and
No.
launch it on the Online Prosperity Show.
Oh, got it. Oh, well, then we'll have to schedule it in and I'll have to give me some impetus to get it finished.
Fantastic. I'll get my people to chase up your people and make sure that it is actually done. But I'm really excited about the conversation that we just had today. I mean, obviously, it just really touches lightly on the value of copy and how it can actually make a difference to your business. But I don't know if you've ever heard this in Australia. Everybody or people around here have this statement, nah, she'll be all right, mate. Do you know what I mean? Then they think, since they were born speaking English, they could just write whatever they want on their website. What sort of words of advice would you give to somebody who's been at it in business for a long time? They know what they're talking about and their clients know them and they get referrals. I think you get those sort of objections from people.
Yes, certainly. Um, what I will say is, I've had this conversation recently, actually, where someone was like, "What's the point of social media? I'm not getting any leads." Um, and what I will say is if you are looking to scale and you're looking to build a business that lasts and has that sort of maturity, right, versus being a business that has a bit more of those up and downs, it has a bit more uncertainty. A really good thing to do is to get really clear on your marketing and really good with it. And so making sure you're hitting multiple channels, making sure you are doing the organic and you're doing the referrals, but you also have a reliable stream of income that you control, right? So that might be running paid ads, that might be, you know, your social medias are really generating some really good leads for you. You're growing your audience. You've got repeatable, emails that go through and will generate income for you. Because a lot of people rely on just one method, and they can get really stuck when that method dries up. And the nature of businesses, it probably will at some point. It's why a lot of businesses have these feast and famine cycles. And so having a stream of income you control, which more often than not comes directly from your marketing efforts, is a really good way to kind of stabilize and scale your business long term. So even if you've been in business for a long time, making sure that you're constantly reevaluating what you're doing, you make sure it's still strong, it's still aligned with what you're doing, it's converting while you're optimizing, you're looking at it consistently, is a really important thing to consider.
Absolutely. I quite like what you're saying there because yes, relying on one lead source is actually like a wobbly table. And if that table, starts wobbling, everything falls off to the side. Now, Simone, it's been an absolute pleasure just having you on the show today and just knowing that somebody like you who really cares. And it's not necessarily you learned your copywriting while watching a YouTube video. You literally, had to do the degree first, and now you're actually just utilizing it in a whole different way. I mean, your insights into the world of copywriting and marketing strategy are just invaluable in and of themselves, and I'm sure our viewers have taken some key lessons that they can actually apply in their own businesses, or if they haven't, they're going to reach out to you in the links that we've put in the show notes below.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been really great to be here and kind of discuss this very important part of marketing, which I know you agree I might be a bit biased, but I think that if you really nail this part of it, everything else just flows easier. So it's worth spending the extra time.
Oh, absolutely. Because your copy is literally a 24/7 salesperson, and you would not necessarily be there to speak to your clients while you're doing what we all want as entrepreneurs, leveraging our businesses, being profitable, and actually having free time. So,
What's that?
copy actually buys you a lot of time because you don't necessarily have to repeat yourself over and over and over again. And if people get the message, then obviously they will do exactly what you ask them to, if it is direct response, which is go on to the next stage. So I really appreciate you taking us on this tour, and also just really enlightening other people, because some people think, yes, I'm just going to be putting words on my website, and they wonder why all they hear is cricket and bills from wherever their business is tapped into. So thank you so much for that. And for those that are watching right now, obviously these are interviews with experts that you only get if you're subscribed to the Online Prosperity Show. So make sure you hit that button and you don't miss out on information like this that could be literally life changing. Until next time, keep thriving, and remember, success is only one strategy away. Bye for now.